Welcome to Live, Work, Thrive. I'm Michaela Birmingham, Scary Mommy executive producer, and I will be your moderator for tonight's panel. It's beginning to look a lot like the holidays, also known as the time where you almost murder a man in your kitchen for asking you 10 times where you keep the fridge filters. Yes, if your relationship or your purified water has been feeling the effects of this pandemic, you're not alone. Same girl. I hear you. Tonight, we will sit down with experts from the Gottman Institute and other mental health pros to get some tangible tips for getting out of a funk. You will most definitely walk away with concrete strategies to apply in your own life, so stay tuned. Now, tonight's conversation is for couples looking to make improvements in their relationships. But if you feel unsafe at all or experiencing physical or mental abuse, please seek help. The number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline is up on the screen now. It's 1-800-799-SAFE, 7233. So specifically tonight, we will cover how to fight the right way. Yes, apparently there is an approved way to fight. 5 conversations every couple should have on purpose. The 4 dark horsemen that can be toxic to a relationship. And we will be taking questions from you watching out there throughout the show. So add your questions to the comments wherever you're watching. Now let's meet our panelists. We have with us tonight Laura Heck. Laura is a licensed marriage and family therapist, certified Gottman therapist, and co-host of Marriage Therapy Radio. In private practice, she exclusively sees couples to refine their relationship and intimacy skills. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Also with us is Zach Brittle. Zach is also a certified Gottman therapist and co-hosts Marriage Therapy Radio with Laura. He is the author of the best-selling relationship guide, The Relationship Alphabet, and the Marriage Therapy Journal. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm Zach, and I'm doing great.
Why am I calling you Josh? I'm sorry.
I'll tell you a funny story about
right
that.
Now.
When people get my name wrong, they call me Josh. It's universal. It's like part of the gig. So you're just part of the universe.
I apologize right now to everyone watching. I had quite a day. I had a little fire at my home.
Yeah.
So I'm a little discombobulated. I may be calling people the wrong names, but there's a good reason why. So I'm glad to be chatting with 2 mental health experts because hopefully they can give
we
you some
got you,
solid
girl.
tips.
We got you. We got you.
Tonight, when we get home, there's going to be some conversations.
Yeah.
So apologies, Zach.
No worries.
Also coming up later in our show, we will be talking with Dr. Melissa Robinson, also known as Dr. Mel. Dr. Mel is a licensed clinical psychologist, assistant clinical professor in pediatrics and psychiatry at Mount Sinai Hospital, and adjunct professor in the NYU Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development, Department of Applied Psychology. I like to read her whole bio because it's so badass. We love Dr. Mel. She's coming up later. Before we get started, we have some quick reminders for everyone watching. You can submit questions wherever you're watching, and we might feature a question later in the show. Also, join our mailing list so you won't miss any of our upcoming events. Go to scarymommy.com/liveworkthrive to sign up. You can also leave us a voicemail. Yes, totally old school, but the hotline is very hot right now. Here's the number up on your screen. Tell us what you're struggling with or what topics you'd like to see coming up. Also, if you're a parent out there with questions about the COVID-19 vaccine for kids, you are in luck because a couple weeks ago, we spoke with the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, who gave us an update on the latest research and what misinformation you can stop worrying about. Visit Live, Work, Thrive to watch that episode and head into the holidays safely with your family vaccinated. Also coming up next week, we're doing a full deep dive on the latest on COVID. What is the deal with Omicron variant and all of the things? How to be festive in a pandemic is next week's show. Sign up. You don't want to miss it. Okay, let's get into tonight's topic. So if you are not familiar with the Gottman method, it began with psychologist Dr. John Gottman, who spent 40 years researching over 3,000 couples to identify patterns in happy marriages and unhappy marriages. Since the 70s, Gottman and his wife, Julie, have been practicing one of the most widely used couples counseling approaches. In fact, the Gottmans can assess in 5 minutes of a marital argument and predict with over 90% accuracy who will stay married and who will divorce within a few years. This is fascinating. Josh, and not Josh. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. Zach and Laura, Can you guys predict within 5 minutes who's going to stay together? Is this a skill that all the Gottman folks have?
I know that you're not going to stay married too long if you call your husband the wrong name.
He's a Peter. I feel like Peters are a dime a dozen. I'll never get his name wrong. But do you guys have this, is it like a qualification, or is the Gottmans just done so much research that they have the knack?
Yeah, it's interesting because we actually have an assessment process that certified Gottman therapists go through, where we're assessing and we're taking a look at what are the patterns that couples have, what's currently present in the relationship. And the whole thing is, I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of things that couples experience, especially in a pandemic, the four horsemen. And when they're present and they continue on and we don't do anything about them, we don't remove them from the relationship, replace them with better habits, they do erode away at the relationship over time. So, I mean, it's not like a party trick. I'm not going to be sitting down at Christmas dinner and looking at all the other couples.
You're going to make it. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Don't lie, Laura. You're totally thinking like,
we always think it,
cousin,
don't we?
No, they're out.
Yeah, no, we think it. We absolutely do. But I mean, I don't want to scare folks off, because you're going to hear things. You're going to go, oh my gosh, my relationship has these patterns, and all of our relationships have them. I have them. Zach has them. It's just that you don't leave them up to erode the relationship. You're constantly trying to replace them with better habits.
And that's what we're going to do tonight, right? We're going to give everyone some real concrete strategies and tips that you can take a kind of inward look and say, hey, maybe that's not the most healthy thing we're doing. Let's figure out a way to improve things. Exactly. So let's talk about the pandemic. Laura, you mentioned the pandemic. Many couples are struggling out there in ways that, we weren't before. Our home and work lives have relocated. A lot of homes, folks are together all day long. We're seeing a lot more of one another. Was trouble always brewing in our relationships and we could just handle it because Steve was at work all day? Or is the last 2 years of the world coming to an end?
Peter.
Oh my God, his name's Peter. Jesus, I got lost all names. What's the deal here? Was it, was this just something that was needed to be scratched from the surface, or is really this time we're going through to blame for, troubles that are brewing right now? What do you think, Laura?
I mean, I think that we're in a pressure cooker. There's a lot of things. The thing that I noticed specifically with men and women is that we outsource our relationships a lot more than we think we do. There's either a deep reliance on our partner meeting all of our needs. Esther Perel talks a lot about how there needs to be kind of a balance of having our partner meet some of our needs, but not all of them. They're not just like the person that we hang out with, our workout buddy, our confidant. We need to be able to outsource. And with the pandemic, we couldn't do that. And we were really lacking the opportunity to have other people meet our emotional needs and our, funny bone needs and our workout buddy needs. And so there was just a lot of pressure that was put on one another in the pandemic.
This is true. And don't want to be the workout buddy with Peter or Steve, neither one. Need to do it by myself. So Zach, is it men's fault? I mean, really though, women have borne the brunt of this pandemic in so many ways, from homeschooling to being essential workers to shouldering the increased mental load, booking the vaccination for the kid. I mean, we're just handling a lot right now. Do we have the right to be mad at you? What's going on here?
I mean, I think you have the right to feel what you're feeling. I mean, we're all struggling in a lot of different ways. I literally had a client in my office the other day. It was a man. He goes, I don't think you understand how hard the last 2 years have been for me. And we all went, I think maybe we do. But I mean, I think the reality is just complicated. And I think one of the things that the pandemic took away from all of us is sort of a natural ebb and flow and some clarity about whose lane was what. And I think, and when particularly men who came and went to work all the time got a good look at what was really going on in their houses, maybe some of them didn't adapt quite as well as they should have.
That is a really good point. So let's talk about that a little more. Whatever the source of the unrest, maybe it was this, lack of adaptation or, shock to the system in some situations. Arguments are going to happen, right? Let's talk about how to have these most effectively. Laura, what are some important ground rules that you recommend to your clients when it comes to, handling disagreements?
Yeah. So I would say First of all, children are around at all times. Even when you think that little ears are not listening, they absolutely are. One ground rule is I would not be afraid to fight in front of your kids, because if you can teach your children how to have good conflict by doing it right, that's a skill they need to learn. They need to learn how to negotiate and have conversations in a really good way. But if you don't know how to have those conversations well, and you're emotionally flooding every time you have those conversations with your partner, that's when you probably need to step behind closed doors, wait until the kids are asleep before you start having those conversations. But I wouldn't be afraid if you are thinking to yourself, I think we're good at conflict. Don't be afraid to have conflict and resolve conflict in front of your kids if you're doing it well. So that's probably tip number one. Since I know many of us have kids, we need to teach them how to do it.
That is true. And then Zach, what about after the fight? Is there a way to, should you make up in front of the kids? Is there steps that you should take, or does it depend on the couple?
No, absolutely. I mean, this is my favorite topic. In fact, I think one thing that I try to drill into my clients' head is repair is more important than resolve. Repair is more important than resolve. Repair is more important. Most of what we're dealing with is not resolvable. In fact, part of Dr. Gottman's research reveals that about 2/3 of what's going on for couples is perpetual. It's going to be there forever. It's baked in because it's sort of just the nature of your personality. But so we have to prioritize repair. And I think, again, to Laura's point, if you're going to argue in front of your kids, repair in front of your kids. Different couples argue in different ways. Some couples argue a lot. They burn hot, they're fiery, and that's their energy. Some are much more sort of maybe Scandinavian. There's the joke about the the Swedish farmer who loved his wife so much that one day he almost told her. Like emotionally, they just don't have as much going on. But I think both of those couples, whatever their conflict is, they can still prioritize repair, even if they haven't quite solved the problem. Because the problems are never going to go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me the Gottmans can't just fix it all forever? It's always going to be there.
That's exactly right. And I think that people need to decide if that's encouraging or discouraging, because I think when you make peace with the fact that some of your conflict's just going to always be there, then you can shift your attention toward the fighting fair, right? And understanding that there's not a winner and a loser here, that ultimately, there's a thing called make-up sex for a reason, right? Like when we get to the other side of conflict and it draws us closer, that can be really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So make-up sex is recommended from you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to get there with intention for sure.
Well, that is an excellent segue to my conversation here about time and place, because I feel like makeup sex is great, except sometimes the partner doesn't always know when to, spring it on you. And it's always like in the last 5 minutes of your sleep before your alarm goes off, not
or
a
when
good
you're
time.
in the middle of cooking and your partner's coming up and goosing you from behind. Never the right time.
No one needs stick them up in the back when it's the pot is on the stove, right? Don't need that. So, okay. So when it comes to time and place, this could be the difference between, getting something that you need from your partner or getting into an argument, right? So let's hear now from clinical psychologist, Dr. Mel, who will give us some tips for navigating time and place. Here she is.
Timing and place makes such a huge difference in the outcomes of our potential arguments. Look, we all are spending so much time together in this even pandemic and post-pandemic life, because even though there has been some return to work, a lot of people are still spending their time at home. And so we have to be careful about when we're bringing things up. If your partner is about to hop on a huge call, that might not be the time to ask why they haven't taken out the trash for the umpteenth time. Or let's say that your partner is now commuting back and forth to their job and they just walked in the door and you want to know, hey, can we talk about all the things that you're putting on our schedule? I'm feeling overscheduled. I feel like, you're always asking us to go out with friends, etc. So those aren't the best times to bring up issues, because already there is a layer of stress and the tank is probably half full, a quarter full. So wait, right? Wait for a time when maybe your partner's in a better mood. Maybe they've had some time to actually put their bags down, have something to eat, grab a glass of water, to be able to have that conversation.
So I think I totally agree with what she's saying in theory. But then at the same time, another way of looking at this would be, I've been home all day with the kids, or I've also had a really stressful day. I don't want to have to walk on eggshells with my partner and tiptoe and wait for the exact perfect moment to bring something up. I should be able to just lay it on them whenever I want. Laura, how do you balance this navigating time and place with like just being able to, hit your partner when you really feel like you have to vent?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you when I want to talk about something because it's important to me and I'm worked up about it. It's really tough, but I do completely agree with Dr. Mel that having the right time and place is important. I always recommend, number one, just like check in with yourself. Are you in a good space to talk to your partner? Because we know that Dr. Gottman was actually able to predict like the first 3 minutes of a conversation is how that conversation is going to end. So if you start out and you're coming out of the gates and you're worked up and you're frustrated and you're tired and you're hot and you're sweaty and you're overwhelmed, that's probably not going to go well. I mean, we know with 94% accuracy that conversation is going to follow suit. So I would say check in with yourself, take a deep breath, and then ask for permission. If you have the buy-in from your partner and you say, hey, there's something important I want to talk to you about. Is now a good time? When they do say now is a good time, or I'm right in the middle of something, can I loop back in 45 minutes? Then they're going to have the buy-in. They're going to be in a space ready to listen. That conversation is going to go so much better.
Is now a good time? Such a simple
Yes.
thing to ask, but can be a game changer, right? We all
It's
have to
so
just put that
respectful.
into our vocab. So put that
Yes.
into your cell phone notes right now, everyone who's watching. Is now a good time? Because I'm telling you, can save so many fights. Okay.
Mhm.
So on this idea of fighting and arguing, the Gottmans have this theory about an emotional bank account. And so their approach says that for every one negative interaction in your day, or is it per day, I guess, with your partner, you need 20 positive interactions to have a healthy relationship. So, Zach, can you tell me more about how you make a deposit in this bank account? Because honestly, if this is 20 per day, a lot of us, including myself, are going to be in serious trouble. What's an example of like a deposit?
It's not really
that's
20
easy
per day. And sometimes the ratio is quoted as 5-1. If it's 5-1 in conflict, 20-1 when things are going smoothly. So let's just reduce it down to 5-1. Basically, what you're talking about is for every negative interaction you want to have about 5 counteracting positive interactions. So think about every sort of I hate you is a $5 debit, but every I love you is only a $1 increase. And so you're trying to balance that out. And what I tell couples all the time is be working on filling the emotional bank account no matter what. Like fill it up all the time. Figure it out. Find out where you get the most return on your investment. Because then when somebody takes $5 out, if you got $100 in the bank, who cares? You got 95 left. If you only have $10 in the bank and you just got cut in half, the relationship becomes a lot harder. I was actually talking to a couple this morning and they're doing pretty good. In fact, better than I thought they were going to be. And they got into a conversation about her hormones, her period, her difference in her body since she's had a baby. And I said, imagine just that we have a conversation, period, about your hormones, just straight up, whatever. If your bank account is empty, that's going to go really bad.
Yeah.
If the bank account is really full,
time and place. Zach. That is all the time and the wrong time to have that conversation.
Definitely time and place. Like you definitely need to have that conversation in the right place, in the right time, but you also need to have it with a full emotional bank account, because then it becomes about collaboration and creativity. And, I wonder what that's about. And of course I've never had a baby, but she hadn't had a baby before either. And so now she was like, this is what my body is now, but they're doing it out of a surplus, which means the point there is that the topic isn't the thing. The topic is almost never the thing. The thing is whether or not we're starting in an emotional surplus or an emotional deficit. And so the best way to fight fair is to be driving your emotional bank account balance up as much as possible, as often as possible. And I think that can be really fun to figure out.
So Laura, what's your favorite, deposit that your partner does for you? That's like to give folks some examples out there.
We're going PG, rated R.
Listen, anything goes. You can say whatever you want here. I mean, Laura, you getting freaky over there? I mean, I was thinking making a coffee in the morning, but get up and floats your boat, girl.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like, like the love languages, it changes over time. So before I had a kid, I probably really appreciated like a cup of coffee or a back massage. And now, to be perfectly honest, like if I hand my husband a stack of clothing and he takes the time to put everything away, and I'm like, oh, acts of service, you just nailed it. So,
Laundry, the hottest thing any
yes.
man can do. Agreed.
Mhm.
100%.
That is it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Now,
I take a
Zach,
stab?
yeah, I
Yeah.
want
So
to
for
hear
me, like
what's
I
your
have a very
go-to.
clear memory of this with my own wife, which was in the span of the same conversation, she complimented my appearance, told me like I was dressed nicely. And then maybe 20 minutes later, she thanked me for something. And it was a really effective thank you. I knew immediately inside my body that when she complimented me, that felt kind of nice. But when she thanked me, that felt very nice. So in that way, what I was able to tell her was, hey, when you complimented me, you like handed me $1. But when you thanked me, that was like handing me $5. So for me personally, it's actually gratitude. Like just be polite and grateful. But the other thing that I would want our viewers to take away is like pay attention. Like what is it that feels best to you? Because it might be a compliment, it might be gratitude, it might be I'm proud of you, it might be a Snickers bar, it might be a Lexus. I mean, I don't know, but like paying attention to what your body is telling you and then giving that information to your partner gives them a great opportunity to have a better like return on their investment, I guess.
That is so great. Now I want to ask you a follow-up. What if you're going through just, a rough patch, maybe your house burned down that day, or, it's not a great moment, and you do give your partner a thank you or a compliment, but they're so used to everyone being in a bad mood that their response to the compliment is why being so nice, or it's like, they can't even figure out how to receive that positive interaction. What do you do in that case?
Can I steal this one, Zach?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay. So what you're talking about is something called negative sentiment override. So you have a choice. You can wear your bleep colored glasses, or you can wear your rose colored glasses. Do you catch on what I'm saying with bleep? Okay. It's your poop colored glasses. If you have those on, you're going to miss the compliments and you're going to interpret neutrality as being actually more negative. And so that's something that if you feel like you have kind of like a chip on your shoulder, you're interpreting these comments as being negative, that's something that you have to do internally to begin to change the way that you're looking at the world. What kind of glasses are you wearing? And choosing the rose colored glasses, choosing to see the positives, choosing to look for gratitude. So, I mean, you could compliment your partner left and right, but if your partner is in negative sentiment override and he's got his poop colored glasses on, you're not going to be able to infiltrate those until he begins to shift his mindset.
Yeah. The other thing is back to the research. We're going to talk a little bit about the four horsemen, which is the most sort of famous predictor of divorce. But the other one, or rather another one that's kind of embedded, is this idea of what's called failure of repair attempts. And so what you're talking about is somebody says, hey, nice job, or hey, thank you, or whatever. We call those repair attempts, meaning I'm trying to repair with you. I'm trying to reconnect with you. We need to let those be successful. Right? We need to allow repair attempts to be successful. That why are you being so nice? Or you're not sorry. That is actually part of the divorce prediction research. So when you ask us, like, can we predict if somebody's going to stay married or not? No, but we can definitely observe when those patterns are entrenched and then try and help people replace them. And so big thing I tell couples all the time, because repair is more important than resolve, you have to let repair attempts be successful.
Okay, now that is a very good point. So let's talk about these four horsemen you mentioned that can be fatal for relationships. So I imagine the Gottmans in their research, if they observe all four of these, this is a 911 where we need to do some serious intervention. Otherwise, this couple is not going to make it. So the four horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So Laura, maybe let's start with you. You give us an example of criticism and we'll go down the list and break down all these dark horsemen and why they're dangerous.
Yeah. So criticism is going to take a complaint that I have. So let's just say my partner is like perpetually late and he just doesn't choose to call to let me know. And I'm waiting around wondering when he's going to show up. I can either address that complaint that I have that he's perpetually late, or I can criticize him by attacking it as like a personality character flaw. And I could just say like, you're so self-consumed and you're like, your ADD is really getting a hold of you. And, it's like, it's a character flaw that I'm pointing out. And the attribution is all internal. And that's something that's really difficult, because the thing is, like, my partner isn't self-consumed. He just, he doesn't pay attention to the clock. So other concerns.
Got it. Okay. So don't make it personal. No personal insults.
Exactly.
All right. Now, what about contempt? Zach?
I'm
What is
going
an
to
example?
I'm going to hijack you a little bit and go to defensiveness, because defensiveness and criticism are very closely related. They dance together. It's like they're almost inseparable. So people who are critical are often in relationship with people who are defensive. And I'm personally super defensive, so I know a lot about this, but the reality is that defensive people quickly assume that they're under attack. I mean, almost over quickly assume that they're under attack, but feeling attacked doesn't mean that you're being attacked. You may be by the critical spouse that you have, but defensive people can always take a pause, right? You can always sort of go, wait a second, what's really going on here? And if I'm really interested in protecting my relationship from the four horsemen, and I'm in relationship with someone who's critical, I can go, wait a second, I'm feeling attacked. Are you trying to ask me for something? Right? Take a measure of responsibility of like your own stuff rather than counterattack, which is a famous response for a defensive person. The other thing a defensive person will do is become a martyr, right? They'll kind of go to martyrdom and be like, oh, it's my fault. I never get it right. Yeah, my bad. I'm just, I'll be on time next, whatever it is. They like to start making stuff up. But those two in particular are like dance partners. They constantly work together, and partners who are in that cycle need to help each other out. They need to help each other out of that cycle.
So if you have a partner who you might interpret as defensive, what would be a way to disarm a comment that they might interpret as defensive, but you're not trying to attack them? Is there like some language that you might say, like,
yeah, 100%.
I don't mean this in a
I
bad
think,
way, or, what could you start out with?
yeah, 100%. I mean, there's I define criticism as it's a bad ask, right? Critical people are being critical because they look at something, they want it to be different, and they want to ask for that. And so they ask in a really poor way. One of the tools inside of the Gottman method is called gentle startup. And it's sort of this template for the ask, which is I feel about what and I need. So, and Laura, maybe she's talking about me. I'm always late to our meetings. So she can say, I feel frustrated and upset when you're not on time. And I need you to at least call me ahead of time. Right. In that way, she's talking completely factually about herself. This is what I feel. This is why I feel this. And this is what I need. That makes it a lot harder for me to get defensive, because she's not talking about me. She's talking about her. And defensive people do need to let people talk about them instead of me all the time. But yeah, it's called a softened startup. It's I feel about what and I need.
Got it. Okay. I like that. Write those notes down, everyone who's watching, in your book. Okay. These are all amazing tips. Seriously, such easy words, less fights. Okay. Contempt. Laura, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so contempt is of the four horsemen, this one is considered like the most deadly. It's like sulfuric acid on the relationship. It's pretty typical that you're going to see criticism and defensiveness in even, newlywed relationships, but contempt kind of makes its way in over time. And ultimately, it's this feeling of superiority over your partner. COVID has been really rough on physical bodies. We haven't been able to get to the gym. We've been eating a lot of comfort food. And so if you find yourself like kind of getting contemptuous and like looking down at your partner and being like, dang, like where did all that weight come from? I'm over here eating my salad and you're over there just like face full of like hamburger. Why can't you seem to get it together? It's this feeling of superiority and putting your partner down. And that's contempt. It's just, I'm better, I'm smarter, I'm, a better parent than you. I think with parents, we can get kind of contemptuous, especially as women, of feeling like we've got it figured out. Like we know how to do the swaddle that gets our baby to bed, or we know how to take care of or talk to the parents in the group or whatever it might be. So I think just kind of being aware of the way that you're thinking about your partner and how that's being portrayed.
And P.S., no one has it figured out. Especially if you have little kids and you think you've got to figure out, guess what? They're going to turn into teens and it's going to get even worse.
Yes. Yeah.
No one wrote that warning anywhere in the baby books. I would have just loved it to say like, colic is way better than a 13-year-old. Like that should have been in the chapter of what to expect, because now
But
I'm
it
like,
doesn't get better.
like no one gave us the warning here. So no one's got
Yeah.
it figured out. Okay. And then the last one, Zach, for you, stonewalling. Take us through what that's about.
Yeah, stonewallers. I have a lot of empathy for stonewallers because stonewallers are doing the right thing. They are opting out of a toxic or problematic or difficult or challenging relationship that's not going to go well. The problem is they're often being impolite or rude about it. I'm not letting you know. Like if I were to just to sort of be in this conversation with us right now and just kind of leave, everybody be like, what's going on? That's not polite. But if I said, hey, oh my gosh, my house is on fire, I got to go do this thing. There's at least a note of like, I'm including you. So stonewallers often are flooded. They're often in kind of what we call it DPA. It's diffuse physiological arousal. It means that their pulse is pretty high and maybe even above 100, and that they just aren't in their best brains. They're not thinking clearly. They're not talking clearly. You're probably repeating yourself. I mean, definitely not listening very well. At that point, you do need to take a break. But some people, they take a break like this. They're just like, other people are just listening, or they'll turn up the music or whatever. I think what stonewallers need to learn how to do is to say, hey, I need a break. I need to walk away for about 20 minutes. And then you come back in 20 minutes and you check in. And how many times have you had this fight, Michaela? Hey, we had a big fight last night. What was it about? I don't even know. Right? Have you had that experience of not even knowing what you were fighting about? Often 20 minutes later, if you come back and you say, hey, do we still need to do this? Mostly you can go, no, not really. We don't really need to. But we do need to make a decision about dinner. And now it's a new thing, right?
This is true. So on this topic of these toxic traits, another tip we have here is from Dr. Milligan, who's going to point out when you're fighting, how not to dig up, let's call it baggage or inside information about your partner and throw it back at them. Let's go now to Dr. Mel. Here she
You have to fight fair. You have to set ground rules. And one of the biggest things I tell individuals and couples who are in relationships is never, ever weaponize a vulnerability in an argument, because that is the quickest way to hurt your partner and to damage the bond between the two of you. And when I say weaponizing a vulnerability, what I mean by that is if your partner has told you that, they get anxious at times, or they've shared a trauma with you, and then you bring that up in the argument as like a dagger, that's weaponizing. We don't want to do that. And you don't want to teach your kids to do that either.
So that sounds like something that's kind of below the belt when you're fighting, right? Bringing up something, throwing it back in their face, not a good look. Does that fall into like the contempt category?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually, we teach the opposite. And that's what we're all about, is like, okay, so here are things that Dr. Gottman would say are just like these bad behaviors, and here's what to replace. So instead of weaponizing, protect your partner's enduring vulnerability. Learn that they're really, maybe insecure about their ADD. And when you start to see ADD behaviors and it's driving you up the wall, and all you want to do is poke at it and like you want them to be better, that's not the time to point out their enduring vulnerability. That's the time to protect it, because they're uncomfortable with their whatever it might be. And it's our job in our loving relationship to honor one another and to protect each other's soft spots.
Okay, now that is a good point. So let's say you're watching the show right now. You've just listened to the 4 Horsemen. And you're like, yikes, we got 3 out of 4 present. This is a 911. We need to make a change because Tinder is not looking so good right now. We don't want to be there like our single cousin who's been on it for 5 years. It's a jungle. What is the first step to repair these habits? How do you go about it? Zach, what do you think?
I have a very, very strong bias here, and it's 100% you take care of your own. Like me as a defensive person, the best thing I can do for my relationship is learn as much as I can about my defensiveness and learn how to curb it, or learn how to channel it in the right way. So if you're a defensive person, 100%, no question, you need to learn how to take responsibility for your behavior, and you need to learn how to like kind of own up. Even if I get into an argument and I feel like I'm really correct, I'm right, I can still apologize for raising my voice. or picking the wrong time to talk about it. Like, I don't have to dig into that I didn't do anything wrong but I'm right part, which is the very defensive side. And so, criticizers need to learn how to ask for what they want in a way that their partner can hear. I mean, that's really important. There's nothing wrong that you have a complaint. We all have complaints all the time. You just need to learn how to ask for the change that you need in a way that works for your partner. And so, I don't know, Laura, you can maybe speak to contempt and stonewalling better than me, but that's the main point is the best way you can protect your relationship from the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is by taking care of the one that happens to be your favorite strategy.
Yeah.
And would you recommend like a sit down, Laura, and say like, listen, Steve, Shane, Mark, Keith, whoever it is, we have some horsemen in the house.
Yes.
We both need to take a look, not pointing fingers, but like, these are the things that the Gottmans say are bad news bears. And let's both look internally. Can we put a finger on any of these 4? Because this is a no bueno. What can we do?
Yeah, I think that just like owning it, there's a great video, actually. It's a lecture that Dr. Gottman gives, and he really kind of does a great job of explaining the 4 horsemen. So if you're watching this right now and it's just you watching it and you're like, man, I would love for my partner to understand this a little bit better, it's a great video to watch. It's Making Relationships Work by Dr. Gottman. But what I would say is, yes, have the sit down and just be like, Laura Heck, Emma Stonewaller, and I would like to rein this in. And you know what, if you need permission from your partner, like I give you permission to point out from time to time when you see it happening. If I happen to be stonewalling, then maybe like say, hey, I think it'd be a good idea if we took a break right now so that we can calm down. But Zach pointed out that like you only have control over your part of the relationship. So take ownership over your 4 horsemen and stop pointing your finger at your partners.
All right. I like it. And we'll see if we can link to that video later on tomorrow. We'll put that up on the site so folks can check out more from Dr. Gottman. Yes. So we asked the Scary Mommy audience out there to call our hotline and tell us, what is the one thing that you and your partner are arguing about constantly? And the calls were flooding in. Clearly, some people are fighting right now. Let's take a listen to a few of those callers. The first one is from Tanisha in Cleveland. She is having trouble making plans with her man. And here's what she says.
Hi, my name is Tanisha. I live in Cleveland, Ohio. One thing that my husband and I fight about constantly is whether or not one of us told the other about something. So let's say I had plans to go somewhere on Friday with one of my friends. And so Friday, headed out the door. Hey, where you going? And I said, I'm going out with Andrea. I told you on Monday. No, you didn't. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And so we go back and forth. No, you did. Yeah, you did. And vice versa. He does the same. Hey, babe, this is going on. We're having a Christmas party at work. I told you about it. No, you didn't. And so we both swear up and down we told each other something, and the other person swear up and down that they didn't. That is something that we fight about often.
Now, I feel like I've had this exact argument many times. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. Da, 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 da. And Tanisha actually went on her message to say that she even set up a calendar online and she started putting her appointments and Christmas parties in there. But then her partner would either be like, you didn't put it in the calendar, or he forgot to check the calendar. And now they're fighting over because you didn't look at the calendar and yada, yada, yada. So how do you organize the plans without fighting? What's your advice here? Zach, what do you do?
Yeah, you stole my answer, because I would have been like, so it's easy to solve this as a calendar. I mean, I think the reality is, it's one thing that, first of all, nobody knows what they said. Like, we don't have memory. We don't have perfect recall. Like, it's not a thing. So this is what you said word for word is never true. Like, you just can't do it unless maybe it's on camera in your house. So you can't rely on what you think you said or what you think you heard. You have to rely on what you need, right? So if she's going to go out with Andrea on Friday and he doesn't remember because that he told her on Monday, he needs to learn how to say, hey, if you're going to do that, can you just write it down and put it on the fridge? Or, hey, if you're going to do that, it would help me a lot if you sent me a text or shot me an email or whatever it is, And I think, again, the idea that I put it on the calendar, and it's on the calendar, but then maybe he gets upset because you didn't put it on the calendar or I didn't look at the calendar. That's a very defensive response, right? So that guy needs to take responsibility for his defensiveness and go, you know what, maybe you did. Even in that conversation that she reported, maybe you did tell me on Monday, I forgot, and now I'm stuck because I don't know how to handle driving to hockey practice tonight. Like there's a conversation that flows out of a full emotional bank account between two functional adults who are allowed to not hear each other precisely. But so there's lots of moving parts building on what we've already talked about today, for sure.
That is great advice. Okay. So our next caller is Gabby from Houston, and she's got some financial drama going on. Here she is.
My name is Gabby. I'm from Houston, Texas. One of the things we always fight about is finances. Of course, we have to sit down and talk about the finances and where our money goes. And my biggest thing is paying off debt, paying off everything, and saving up money for the future. And his is spend it now and go on trips, have fun. So I guess finding the middle ground. So yeah, if there's any advice you could help us out with, that'd be great. Thanks. Bye.
So I feel like sometimes the woman gets put into this like Debbie Downer role, and the man can be like king of fun. Woo, trips, let's go on vacation, let's get a dog, let's motorcycles, woo, do all the things. Not to be super stereotypical, but yeah, like king of fun. And then the mom's like, brush your teeth, make your bed, floss. Can we read? Can we practice the times tables? Because it's just, in our nature to want to like get all the like unfun stuff done. And then, here you are. It sucks. No one wants to be in those roles. So Laura, how do you deal with this when it comes to money?
Well, first of all, I'm totally the Debbie Downer. I'm the one that's like looking at the budget and the bottom line and but I need my partner who has balance and brings the fun and the joy and says, it's okay to spend some money on vacation and a nice meal and just chill out. You're going to enjoy it. It's true. But I think that she nailed it when she said, I want to find like the balance. And when we're talking about money, there's a value system underneath everything. And for her, it might be security and safety. And that's why she's looking at saving. And that's why she's paying attention to where the money is going. For him, his value system might be driven more by like, I want to enjoy the fruit of my labor. And I want to really just like have a good time and live large because I didn't. So if you can speak from the value position and say, let's find a way for me to honor yours and you to honor mine, and that's how we spend our money, I think you're gonna have better conversations around money in the future. But also honor the fact that you do need that balance with both people.
That makes a lot of sense. So
Yes.
Our last caller is Alina from Fort Worth, who argues about being recognized as a stay-at-home mother. Here she is.
My name is Alina. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. My partner and I constantly fight about me being a stay-at-home mom. It's not a real job, and he makes all the money so I can stay home and raise the kids.
So Zach, this is, a tricky one, right?
Sort of.
Stay-at-home motherhood is a job. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And sometimes this can create conflict. What do you say to couples in this position?
Well, first of all, I think stay-at-home moms are amazing. And I think there's those kind of infographics about the value of a stay-at-home mom, like if they were the CEO and the cook and the chauffeur and the whatever, and they worth $250,000 a year or something like that. Like, I think that we need to appreciate that there are a lot of different economies inside of a relationship. There's the economy of time and of energy. And one of the brutal things about money, to that last caller even, is that you can measure it, right? I'm more valuable because I bring home $250,000 or $20 or whatever. Like, somehow value is tied to this mathematical number that exists that really is also in relationship with the value of time and energy and how the stuff gets done and whether or not the kids are tucked in and their teeth are brushed and all this other stuff. So I think people need to learn how to expand the conversation and just acknowledge that lots of things are true. Like, yeah, sure, you bring home the bacon and that's really valuable. And I want to appreciate you in the way that's important. And, I take it out of the bag and I put it in the fridge and I take it out and I cook it and then I serve it up and then I clean after it. Like, all the bacon something has to happen to it. Right. So I think teaching couples how to have an expanded conversation, which is something that we do a lot in our practice. Because again, the thing isn't the thing. It's the way we talk about the thing and the way we deal with the thing that really matters. So
That is so true. So, and yes, and if you've ever done, sixth grade fractions, you will know that whoever is home doing the homework with the children, it is hard ass work. Okay. So speaking for a friend, of course. So we're going to now think about maintenance of our relationships and how we can put some of these habits that are maybe negative and flip those around into more healthy maintenance type, skill building for ourselves. And the Gottmans this is why I love this method so much, because they give you all of these kind of tips and toolkit type strategies to implement in your life. And you can do all of this right away. And the Gottmans recommend 5 conversations every couple should have on purpose. So we're going to go through all of these 5. Maybe we'll go back and forth between Laura and Zach here. Laura, first one on the list is stress reducing conversation. How do you tackle this vent session, and why is that helpful?
Yeah, so it should be a daily conversation. I think a lot of couples are having this type of conversation, maybe not with COVID, because it starts out with, "Hey, honey, how was your day?" And that's essentially what this is. But there's research that shows that when you are venting to your partner and your partner showing up in a very sort of empathetic, focused way, and they're really empathizing with you and validating your feelings, it actually helps your own stress, internal stress, to reduce, and it brings you closer together as a couple. And so if you're taking 20 minutes out of your day and I'm venting for 10 minutes and all you're doing is listening and validating me and saying things like, "Man, no wonder you've been so stressed out. I know you've been flip-flopping all night long. You haven't been able to sleep. It makes perfect sense to me why you'd be so stressed." When I hear that from my partner, I'm going to feel that much more loved, adored, appreciated, and I'm going to feel closer to my partner. So that's a huge deposit in that emotional bank account. That's just one more way to continue to drive up the surplus. So 20 minutes a day, each of you are venting for 10 minutes, and all you're doing, you're not solving the problem. You're always taking their side, and you're just validating their emotions and their feelings and what's going on with them.
Got it. And I guess, does that also work like to do with your girlfriend if your partner maybe is not home, or maybe you got certain subjects that are better vented and stress reduced with the girlfriend and then others for the partner? How does that work? Is that like a personal division of the vent?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, what we're trying to do is bring you and your partner closer together, not you and your girlfriend. But if you want to strengthen your relationship with your girlfriend, by all means, have a stress reducing conversation with them. If you're wanting to strengthen your relationship with your partner, I think one thing that I should specify is that when you're venting, you're not talking about your relationship. You're venting about everything outside. So this is the part where you get to vent to your partner about your girlfriend. And I don't recommend going to your girlfriend and venting about your partner. I think that's what therapy's for. But yeah, I mean, I think that you can outsource your venting if your partner is over you talking about things
your eyelash serum, for example,
right,
that
getting in your eye,
filled all over the back. Like, that's not a conversation you're necessarily going to have with Zach, but I'm guessing Allison would really feel your pain. I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, Gottman's, take it or leave it. That's my tip for everyone. Okay. So, Zach, we have aftermath of the fight. What do you do here? What is this crucial conversation to have?
Yeah. So the first conversation exists for the purpose of reducing stress. This one is a conversation you have after you've had an event that didn't go well. In fact, it's often called aftermath of a fight or regrettable incident. And it's really for the purpose of evaluating what happened and how you can avoid it in the future. And there are specific rules to this conversation. It's a kind of a 5-step thing that you go through. Most of it is you focusing on you in order to sort of set yourself up for success the next time. So if you went to a party and that party, went bad because one of you embarrassed the other one, you come home and you can talk about it, process it through primarily your own lens, so that you can then ask for, hey, next time we go to a party, it would really help me if you did X. Right. And then that way you're able to sort of park the trauma or drama around the event. Oh, you're bringing this up again? Oh my God, we're still talking about this? That happened 5 years ago. That's the thing you have to do aftermath of a fight about.
Got it. Okay. So you have the aftermath conversation, then it's in the vault and we're done. We don't keep bringing up the time somebody drank too much rosé at a party. Got it. Okay. So number 3, Laura, dreams within conflict. Ooh, what's this one about?
I know, right? So this is if you are having a conflict conversation and you really feel like, oh my gosh, not this again. It's like you're gridlocked on a specific topic. And what we say is like pump the brakes for a second and don't slip into problem solving. I want you to really just focus on like what's most important to you. So you're pausing and you're saying, okay, I don't get it. I don't understand why it's so important for you to spend X amount of dollars at the Nordstrom half annual, yearly sale, whatever it might be. Like, tell me, like, I really genuinely want to understand your point of view. And then I get to really just kind of dig down and get underneath it and be like, wow, I never thought about this, but I realized that money for me and how I represent myself on the outside is really representative of how I feel on the inside. And you're kind of telling the story about why it's so important. So you're really building empathy. And this is an important piece of the puzzle because we jump to problem solving entirely too fast. And we just need to pause and say, I don't get you. I don't understand. And I really do want to give you the space to be able to talk about what's so important to you and get underneath it. So that's what this conversation is all about. Once you've had that dreams within conflict conversation, then maybe you can move into problem solving, or maybe you just sort of loosen the grip on this gridlock topic enough that you can move past it.
Got it. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. So number 4, Zach, compromise. It's easier.
Yeah, this is the time where you're trying to actually make a decision, you're trying to actually solve the thing. We're not stressed because we've done the stress reduction exercises. We're not bringing up old stuff. We have deeper understanding because of dreams within conflict. And now it's time to actually decide, how are we going to tackle this next thing? How are we going to tackle this problem? That's usually something between your initial desire and your partner's initial desire. And that means you have to like kind of get creative and look for the thing that you both want. And I think when you sit down, understanding that we're probably going to have to give up a little bit, but you're doing it from a position of respect and of sort of emotional surplus or positive sentiment override, then it enables the decision-making process. And again, it can be pretty specific in terms of the way that you're chasing a solution around a particular issue.
Okay. So we have a ton of questions piling in from our audience watching right now. So I want to make time, and we're almost to the end. So I want to make time. I'm going to hit you with a few of these questions. And if you could just give us your most concise answer, I'll try and get to as many of these as possible. So here's one for you, Laura. How do you approach tone of voice in arguments? It's not what you said, it's how you said it. How do you fix the tone? Does Gottman have a solution for that?
Yeah, you talk about it, but I would say talk about it when you're not fired up. I mean, it's really easy to have a conversation while you're on a walk and you're not talking about it and you don't hear the tone, but you say, hey, I was just thinking, I find that I'm really triggered when you raise your voice. It just kind of reminds me of my dad. And I wanted to let you know that next time you raise your voice, I am going to say something because I want us to get better at this. So you're having the conversation when you're not in the middle of hearing the tone and then escalating it further.
I want us to get better at this. I like that language. Put that one in your notes because I feel like that is a disarming kind of a phrase that it's like, we're on the same team here. Let's figure it out together. Steve,
Totally.
Shane, Keith, all of you offenders out
Gosh.
there. Okay.
Yes.
So Zach, how do you make time for intimacy during a pandemic when everyone is home? I mean, if you have the solution for this, Zach, I give you all the points.
Yeah, I mean, we make time for things that are priorities for us, right? Like if you want to exercise, you make time to go to the gym. If you want to eat food, you make time to eat, sit down at the dinner table. If you want to get your job done, you carve out time to get your job done. Sometimes you just have to carve out time. And one of the problems particularly with intimacy is it used to be for a lot of us, this sort of recreationally spontaneous thing. And that part has been removed for a lot of us, either because of our children or because of the pandemic or because of our square footage. And honestly, it just comes down to becoming creative to carve out the space and time. Interestingly, like time and space about conflict is the same. There's a bad time to ask for sex and there's a better time to ask for sex, which is, can we make sure we do this on Saturday mornings before the kids wake up? It's not ideal. It's not spontaneous, maybe not even all that fun, but if it's a priority, we make time.
Or when the dog is not on the physical bed.
Sure.
Maybe just a tip, throwing it
Totally.
out there again, take it or leave it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Laura, for you, Should I give into a fight knowing it's just for the sake of keeping the peace?
Should I give in? No, I mean, I think if you have a need, then continue to talk through it. But here's the deal. If we're throwing in the towel on a conversation, it's probably because you're emotionally flooded and you've already run its course. So I would say hit the pause button. Don't give up on something if it's really important to you. If that's a core need of yours, stick with it. But if you're thinking, I just want to throw my hands up, this has just gotten too difficult, then say, I think we need to take a break here. Can we circle back like maybe tomorrow or in like 40 minutes? That would be really great.
I love she's like 40 minutes, not 45 minutes, just like 36 minutes. I'll be ready for you.
Right.
Okay. So Zach, last question for you. What if your partner gets easily hurt by any comment or criticism you make? How do you talk to them in a way that won't trigger them?
I mean, I think you have to set the table, right? Like you say, hey, there's some things I need to say. I understand that may be hurtful to you. That's not my goal. My goal is to achieve change that will draw us closer. And that may mean that you're part of that change. I'm willing to be part of that change, but sure, most of us get hurt because, well, I'll just leave it at that. Like, I think we need to set the table. If there's something that you really need to ask for, then again, you got to find the way to ask for it that works for your partner. And if your partner is easily triggered, protect them from that part.
This is good. And consult that section on the horsemen, because I feel like if you're criticizing and the people are getting defensive, you might have a 2 horsemen situation, might be needing a 911. Look up the Gottmans because they're going to help you out. Okay. So Laura, you get the last final word here. Okay.
Right.
If I ask for a change in a way that works for my partner and still no change, what do I do?
Yeah, I get really curious. I would sit down and I would get curious and I would say, we talked about this and I was hoping that we would have some change, a shift. And I noticed that this didn't happen. Like, what am I missing here? Is there something, maybe this wasn't a good compromise. Maybe we need to go back and revisit because it doesn't actually work for both of you. But Zach and I always talk about curiosity is an amazing place to start rather than pointing your finger at your partner and being like, what the heck, dude? Like, we talked about this last Tuesday. That would be critical. Instead, I'm going to be curious.
Yeah, what does Dr. Gottman say? See? There's a difference between what is this and what the hell is this?
Yeah. Lead with what is this?
Leave out the hell. Okay.
Yeah.
But so I'm curious about X is better than what the hell were you thinking?
Okay. Yeah. 100%.
Got it. All right.
Wow.
Again, so simple to not get into a fight, but so effective. This is why I love all of these methods from the Gottmans. Okay. So we are almost out of time. And I know there's a ton of questions. Stick with us. We will have some follow-ups for everyone on our website. But I want to let everyone know that the next live event will be on December 14th, next Tuesday. And the topic is how to be festive in a pandemic, tips and facts to hack holiday drama. Omicron is here to ruin all our plans. So we will sit down with experts, including the New York Times medical science reporter, Apurva Mondavili, to discuss the latest on the variant and how to best attempt festivities in the safest way possible. Right. So now we know how to not argue. Now let's learn how to not die. Okay. It's going to be fantastic. Register now at scarymommy.com/liveworkthrive and call us on our hotline with any questions you have for our COVID experts. We have doctors, we have top epidemiologists who are going to be here to answer. Here's the number up on the screen for everyone. Hit us with your voicemail and we will get to as many of those as we can on our live show next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So thank you to our incredible panelists, Laura Heck and Zach Brittle from the Gottman Institute. They are also co-hosts of the podcast Marriage Therapy Radio. To learn more, visit their website, marriagetherapyradio.com, or follow the show on Instagram at Marriage Therapy Radio. Their Instagram is fantastic. You need to check it out. Lots of lovely memes and links back to their podcast. It's wonderful. Also, for more on the Gottman Institute, visit Gottman.com. They have a newsletter you can sign up for. I signed up for it. Lots of great tips in there that you might be interested in. Also, thank you to Dr. Mel. Always a pleasure having her on our show. And thank you to everyone who called in. Have a great night, Scary Mommies. The pandemic is still going. My house is on fire, but we don't want to let our relationships fall by the wayside, right? Let's think of our love life like our pandemic pets. They are annoying. They are messy. but when they're sick, we take them to the vet, right? Not saying my man is a dog necessarily, but I'm just saying every relationship needs maintenance. So let's do our part. Let's keep the lines of communication, healthy communication and healthy fighting open so that all our partnerships will live, work, and thrive. Good night, everyone.